You know, I didn't want to have this kind of.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Of course you did.
No, I didn't.
Well, then you brought up a lot of subjects that
Well, I said
were
I'm going to ask
inappropriately
you
brought
tough
up.
questions.
They were inappropriately brought up, right from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions. No.
It is.
When you set up the interview, your first statement
You're
was...
president. Don't you
Excuse
think
me,
you should
no,
be
no.
accountable to the
Listen,
American people?
your first statement to me, this is going to be tough questions. Well, I don't mind that. But when you set up the interview, you didn't say that. You said, oh, let's have a lovely interview. And here's what I do say.
So why?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with Joe Biden.
I never did a Joe Biden.
It was a joke. The interview, 60 Minutes. I see Joe Biden giving softball after softball. I've seen all of his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard.
Okay, but forget him for a minute.
No, but you start with me.
You're president.
Excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions?
I did.
That's no way to talk. No way to talk.
Leslie, one second. This is the first warning. I think we have 5 minutes until we have the vice president step in. Is that about right?
Well, I think we have enough. We have enough of
Yeah, I
it.
think we're ready for the vice president now.
I think we have enough of an interview here. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go meet for 2 seconds, okay? Thanks. I'll see you later. Thanks.
And this is supposed to be the supposed strongman president? This is the guy who we're supposed to believe is tough and powerful? And the guy who left an interview because there were tough questions? Trump isn't any of those things, and the fact that all it takes are a few questions to send him spiraling is proof of that. The truth is that Trump has been so coddled by softball interviews on Fox News and OAN and the rest of the right-wing ecosystem that as soon as he has to actually answer real questions, he goes into a full meltdown. If it's not Lou Dobbs asking him, "How do you do it, sir?" then he simply doesn't know how to react. He doesn't want to be held accountable, he wants to be praised. He wants adulation. That's what the presidency is to him, a way to feed his ego regardless of what his time in office actually resulted in. And yet, despite the fact that Trump's entire presidency has been softball interviews, he actually has the audacity to accuse Leslie Stahl of giving Biden a softball interview, despite the fact that she quite literally didn't even interview Joe. But even if she had, Biden isn't president. Trump gets tough questions because he's in charge. He has a record to defend. Joe Biden is a candidate. He hasn't done anything in office yet. It's Trump who's presided over 220,000 deaths. It's Trump who's presided over 8% unemployment. It's Trump who's presided over 11 million jobs lost during this pandemic. The guy's overseeing the 4th biggest mass casualty event in US history. And he doesn't think he should be subject to any tough questions? And keep in mind, this has become a trend. Trump finally sitting down for interviews with actual journalists and then lashing out at the interviewer because they didn't grovel at his feet. He did it with Chris Wallace, with Savannah Guthrie. He's attacked Jeff Mason for the cardinal sin of questioning the already debunked claims about Joe and Hunter Biden. At some point, we have to acknowledge that maybe it's not the entire media's fault. Maybe, just maybe, it's the guy who can't stop himself from lying and spreading disinformation and trafficking in conspiracy theories. Just, you know, for starters. The fact is that Trump walking out of this interview tells you everything you need to know. If he had a record worth running on, he'd be willing to sit down and defend it. But he doesn't. His presidency has been the greatest failure in modern American history. We're in the midst of a pandemic, a jobs crisis, an economic recession, civil rights demonstrations, and so of course he doesn't want to answer for any of that. Of course he'd rather get up and run away than actually be held to account for his own actions in office. What we need right now in this country is not a malignant narcissist looking out for himself. It's an actual leader looking out for the American people. It's someone willing to put in the time and do the work necessary to solve this pandemic, to not only bring jobs back, but jobs that bring us into the 21st century, and yet again fix an economy broken by a Republican administration. Trump has already shown us, in every way imaginable, that he's not willing to do the work. He wants the rallies, the praise, the clapping, the adulation, but that's where it ends. His presidency isn't about us, it's about him, and the American people are tired of it. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.